Welcome back. It's good to see you. After all, I've been out for a couple of weeks, but we're back doing a video. Wanted to do a video after talking with Pat Moore from Moore Roughouts. Pat and Randy operate a business out of, I think it's in North Dakota, called Moore Roughouts, and they sell roughouts that, you know what a roughout is. Roughout is different than a blank. A roughout has been put on a duplicator, and so it has all the major features here, and all you have to do is add the details. So I talked to Pat about doing a couple of videos using their roughouts and showing you not only how you can do it, but also how you can change it if you wish. Because as much as you want to try to do this as good as Pat does, and she's a wonderful, wonderful carver and a wonderful painter, you probably have a hard time doing this the same way she does. And so nothing wrong with taking that rough out and changing it the way you want. In fact, the CCA has a book out, came out a year or two ago, called Carving Inside the Rough Out. And I was looking for my copy. I thought it was laying here, but it's not. Anyway, they had a rough out that looks like this. And I think there were 28 of them that took this rough out and decided to make their own. So it was all about how do you change this rough out. And you can order this rough out from the CCA website or from a couple other places. I don't know exactly where. But the idea was to take this rough out, carve it your way. And in fact, somebody cut off one of the legs and turned it into a roost or a perch for a bird and carved a bird out of this. It was fascinating to look at some of those carvings that everybody came up with, but I'm sure everybody looks at that. I think, what I would see out of this is a Roman soldier, and maybe I'll do that sometime down the road. Today I wanted to focus on this carving right here. This is carved almost exclusively just like Pat would do. I carved this one from the rough out that I bought from them. I bought a couple of them. So I wanted to do one where I showed you what I did and one where I showed you how I did what I did. If you want to order this one, here is the sheet, the instruction sheet that shows up that comes with it. And there's the part number right here. And the cost, it may change between when I show you this and later, or when you go to buy it. Anyway, but this is the one we're going to carve, and I want to show you how to go from a rough out to a finished product. And so I'll break this up into a couple of videos, but this is what we want to do. So I showed one of these a little bit earlier on an earlier video, and somebody said that these are not meant to be shared publicly, but I've already talked to Pat about doing that and told them that I was going to show them. They said, make sure the person has the right part number, because what they don't want is to say, I watched a video by a carver who did a carving and I want that rough out. And the reality is, unless you know what it is, they're searching all over for the Santa Claus or the carving that person does. So I wanted to do this so that I can do it as we carve along. We show you how to draw on it, how to start carving on it, and then how to finish it. And we'll try to make that one look like this one. Make a few changes along the way, which will have no effect on the original carving itself. But I want to have a little bit of fun with this, because I know as an instructor, I've taught in places where primarily everybody says, I want a blank, because I can change the blank to look like I want. And other people are adamant about having a rough out because these are easier to carve. All the major features are here on this rough out. Here's the arms, you can see. Here's the other arm right here. Here's the head, obviously, at the top. Here's the ruff or the fur around the bottom and the base. Here's the front of the coat as well. And so a lot of it is already here. So once you start drawing on it, you're going to be able to just take off and have fun with it. I understand the need for a blank. You want to make it your own. You want to take it and make that thing as unique to you as you want. And you can certainly paint this any way you want and even do a few different little carving parts of it. But I want to try to hold this as close to that one as I can with my own unique things. So it's not that hard to do in my opinion. And I understand why people want to do these. In fact, I've realized I've got a lot of rough outs that I picked up. Most of them I picked up secondhand because they weren't bought directly from their instructor, some of whom are no longer with us. I just got 2 of them yesterday from somebody who had a neighbor that gave her a whole bunch, and I ended up with 2 of them. And maybe we'll turn that into a video as well. Here's one. It's called the Camp Cook. I hope you can see that. Camp Cook. And there's the sheet that came with it. There you go. Might be a better picture right there. So it's got all the pieces in here. It's about 7 or 8 inches tall. There's another one here. It's called, I have no idea what it's called because the picture doesn't show up very well. In fact, when somebody recognizes who this is, who did this, and let me know, I'd appreciate it. Put it in the comments down there. But this one is a cowboy with a horse and cactus and corral parts and other things like that. So that'll be an interesting one to do as well. Anyway, we're working on this guy. This is the Santa by Pat Moore. It was originally designed by John Susin, S-U-S-I-N, and carved and painted by Pat Moore in her unique way. I love the way she does eyes. I love the way she does color. She's got degrees in art, and so she does a fantastic job at it. This is part number 020-850. If you give them a call, the number is, fold it over. Their phone number is right here. And so I don't want to show you the whole thing just in case somebody says, you're showing the secrets. But the reality is if you're a decent enough drawer or carver, you can take a picture and make an almost exact replica of that. But anyway, here's the 701 number and the 800 number. Get over there where it needs to be. And it's that 020-850. Okay, let's get started. I'll turn this one off and start another video in a minute, and we'll get everything squared away. All right, and away we go. Like I said, we're doing this one right here, and there's the part number right there. And there's the number to call, Pat or Randy. There's the website if you want to order it off the website. We're doing this Santa Claus right here. Red and gold Santa is what Pat called it. So I painted mine red and gold too. So this is what we're going to be doing. One of the first things I like to do when I do a carving is I like to put some marks on it. I want to know where I'm going. If I know where I'm going, I know what I'm off. And so I'm just going to outline. I just use one of these big markers because I want to take all this off. I know some people use pencil. I like a marker because it makes it easier for me to see. And a lot of people complain about the lead coming off the pencils. I generally don't have that big a problem with those. I just carve most of those things off anyway. I don't have a lot on my gloves. Just so you know, those of you that watch me know that I'm missing a middle finger there, part of it, and I'm missing part of the thumb. My thumb only goes down to about right here. And so I don't know if you consider me a handicapped carver, but I don't. I don't. It just means I got to carve differently than other people. Since I don't have a moving thumb that goes in and out like that, I can't use that to push. It's used as a fulcrum. So my tool will go around that, but I don't use it to push because I can't. Anyway, I wrap them in these rubber glove tips, and then with vet wrap or Coban. It's just another layer of protection, and that's where I'm going to get most of the hits. I just threw away a glove the other day. It had a little hole in here, and it started to unwind, and I just don't like that. So I'm gonna wear a glove, and I'm gonna just say right off the bat, if you're not wearing a glove, you're endangering yourself. Just gonna say that. For me, I don't have a desire to be hurt any more than I already have in my life. I've had more surgeries than I care to mention, and I'm finding out as I get older, I don't get sick very often, but I get hurt a lot. I'm fragile that way, and I've been that way. I broke my first bone at 16, and I just get a little bit nervous whenever I am doing something I really shouldn't do. and carving without a glove is that for me. I know there's a lot of people that say, yeah, if you're carving with a glove and you get hurt or whatever, you're doing it wrong. And I go, well, you know what? I don't have the ability to do it like some people do, especially the flat plane carvers who do these great big flat planes. I don't have the ability to do that, mainly because of the way what I have left with my hand. Not only that, it's real bad arthritis too. So some days I take a little more ibuprofen than I really want, because I don't really like taking a lot of medicine, but you do what you have to. And for me, it's a matter of doing what you want to do. I love carving. I can't get enough of it, and I will bawl like a baby when the day comes around that I'm not able to carve anymore. That day is not today, and hopefully it won't be for quite a while. So anyway, I'm just putting some marks on here, and I've done one of these, so and I've done Santa, so I kind of know where I'm going. Somewhere right in here, I'm going to have eyeballs. Somewhere right around here, I might have the bottom of the nose, although I have the ability to adjust that up and down. So I'm just going to make those few marks. And then I'm going to come in here with a big tool and start taking some of these off. Now when you do roughouts, you end up with a lot of this chewed up wood, if you could see that very well. Some people hate it, some people don't mind it, but the wood gets chewed up because it's on a duplicator machine with a router head. And you need a big router head that'll take off these pieces of wood, because this essentially starts as a block. And they put the clamping mark in here, and that's what it looks like. That's the indication that it's a rough out there. And so I'll show you how to take that off a little bit later. I just demonstrated to our club the other day, and some of the new carvers were fascinated that the difference between before and after. But anyway, I put some marks on there, and I'm going to take the things off. But as I was saying, I don't like all this chew up stuff, so I take the time to remove some of that stuff, and I'm going to try to keep an eye on the clock, because I want these videos to only be about 20-30 minutes long. But anyway, I like to remove all that stuff, and so what I do a lot of times is go in here and I put where the gross anatomy is, and then I start removing the stuff I don't want on there. So, don't move. I just bought myself a new tripod, and I really love it because it has a swing arm that comes down, and it's parallel to my work table, so I can put the camera right above where I want to work. And it makes it a whole lot easier, because that way I can be right above the work surface, and I can show you what I'm doing. You can see straight down on it rather than trying to peer over my shoulder. I also like to carve with the protection for my thumb, so again I use that rubber glove tip and the Coban for that particular reason. I've got this big number, see the light there, number 12, you can see it there. It's a file, and I've been working with Chris Willock through Wood Carver's Warehouse, or Whittling Shack, on using some of the Stubides, and I don't have a Stubide this big, so I'm going to use that. We'll switch back and forth. I use a lot of tools. I don't use anything exclusively, because I find that one brand will do something and one brand won't. So all I'm doing is these marks that I put on there. You'll have to bear with me a little bit. I'm a little bit awkward. I was on vacation at the Oregon coast here. It was a month ago, the end of September, and I tripped and fell, and I hurt my right shoulder. And so I have to watch what I'm doing. I'm on restricted duty, which means I can't lift a lot. I'm doing exercises and stretching and rehab, and it's getting better. It's better today than it was yesterday, vice versa. Or not vice versa, but etc. It's getting better every day. But again, it's going to take a while. I've had both of my shoulders operated on and rotator cuff torn. And so I have to be real careful about what I do. So no more contact sports. In addition to the surgery I had on my neck a number of years ago, I have to be real careful about making sure where my feet are, where my body is, where everything is when I'm when I'm doing what I'm doing, whether it's hard labor out in the garage or cleaning out, cutting down trees or whatever. I got to make sure what I'm doing and where I'm doing it. So I'm trying to look at the screen as often as I can, so I keep my eye on whether I'm in the center of the screen. So bear with me, and I apologize. Every one of us that do this occasionally get off screen, and I try to watch that. Let me see if I can twist it just a little bit more. Hang on a minute. Gosh dang it, where's that thing? Alright, bear with me. I'm just trying to make sure this thing's not going to swivel anymore on me, and it wants to. Get it down to a point and then it goes off. So okay, we'll leave it there and not touch it. How about that? But anyway, all I'm doing right now is just trying to take off as much of those lines that I can, because once I put them on there, I'm still not sure if that's the right spot. I want to make sure that what I'm doing is in the spot that I want it to be. So I'm working on separating the base from the fur around the coat. And I try to remove all those lines, but I don't necessarily have to. It's an indication of where I put them, an indication of where I need to. See this flat spot here at the front of it, you could put some kind of caption there or a title. Pat calls it Red and Gold Santa. I guess that would work too. But I've removed the line around there. I've removed the line around the coat and the fur. Do a little bit here with the separating the elbows or arms from the rest of the carving. And again, this is, you know, if you're a painter, you call this the underpainting. This is the setup, the foundation. And so what I'm doing is trying to make sure all of these lines that I put in here are going to be adequate for telling me where everything's going to go. Once I get the lines off of there, then I'm going to go and I'm going to spend some time with generally a knife or a flat gouge, number 2, maybe even a number 3, fishtail gouge, and I just want to remove all these marks, because once I get the marks off, I'm talking about all these chewed up marks, once I get all those off, then I can get a better indication of what this thing is going to look like. I mean, I have an idea right here. I know that the arm is here. That's the elbow tucked back in there. This is the back, so you know there's no surprises on a lot of this. And that's what a lot of people like. They like the roughouts simply because you can get to a finished carving with a lot less output in terms of effort. And if you're a little older, sometimes you just don't have the shoulder strength or the arm strength or the stamina to do that, and I understand that perfectly. I've recently just started using my own roughouts. I ordered 2 sets of 8 from Tim Heineke at Heineke Woods, and I like the way they turned out. I've done a few of them. I sold a couple at a place where I taught back in September because that person wanted to do another Santa. But I'm switching over somewhat to using roughouts, and I don't want to say exclusively, but for a good portion of what I'm going to do, I'm going to use roughouts, because the people that are hiring me or want me to come teach a class, you know, not everybody has 4 or 5 days to work on one carving. And so if we use a roughout, mine or anybody else's, we can get to a finished product a little bit quicker. So you see an idea of where it's going. Okay, this is going to be the fur up here, and just like here, No, sorry, not fur, not beard, not fur. And so you get an idea of where we're headed right there. Okay. I'm going to round the top of the head, so I'm going to pull out, oh, what knife do I want to use? I just want to round the top of that head because it's a little bit sorry about that. And we're back to that head. Okay, we're back to the head. Alright, we're back to on that head. I wanted to take some time to edit out a piece where the whole camera just flipped upside down, and I felt like that was just unprofessional. So I needed to take care of that. I'm trying to use more professional techniques just because I don't want to have to create a blooper reel from everything that I do, and it seems like there's always something that I'm doing wrong. If you'll notice on the original picture, this guy did not have a real puff ball at the top or a pom-pom. So we're going to carve this just kind of like an old world Santa. Without a pom-pom. We're just going to round that over with a lot of fur on it. Playing a little bit of music in the background. The music channels that come in on the TV, on the cable, there's some good ones on there, and so I'm just have it running as background noise. Not sure if you can hear it, but it's very soothing. But if you hear it, it's just whatever's playing on the TV. I just want to round that hat over, and it looks overly tall, but by the time we put the fur in there, where it's really going to be, then we'll be okay. Be alright. Okay, I'm going to switch to a smaller gouge. I was using this big stubai, or not stubai, using this big file. And so I'm going to grab a smaller one of the stubais that I'm working with Chris. Give me a minute to find it. Here we go. This is one of the stubais that I've been working with. This is stubais made in Austria. And this one is a number 41. So it's a V-tool of about, I want to say 45 degrees. Probably 3 or 4 millimeters across maybe. But anyway, this is a small enough V-tool that I can go in here. And I know that's where the beard is. Bottom of the head's going to be, so I'm just going to follow that line. Before you start carving, always make sure you're sharpening, honing rather, your tools. It doesn't take long to hone a tool to get it where you want to go, and always remember to carve safely. That's why I wear a lot of safety gear and I try to protect myself. But I also hone my tools on a regular basis. If you're like me, you don't like fooling with dull tools, and the rule of thumb is you'll get cut a lot easier and worse if you have dull tools. I like to protect myself because you can see how close I'm getting to my thumb there. I know how far I need to go, but sometimes I'm not in control of the wood, and the wood tells me, okay, you're going to slip right here, and so sometimes I do. But that's just a little nick and a poke rather than an entire stitches scenario. So again, I'm just outlining what I want to do. There's the back of the head. I'm outlining where I want to make these cuts because once I put in the under painting or the undergrowth or gross anatomy, whatever you want to call it, whatever term you have for prep stuff. This is separating the head from the rough on the hat or the fur on the hat. So I was saying about sharpening your tools. We always talk about the difference between honing and sharpening. Honing is simply just using leather, and sharpening is reshaping the edge of the blade. So if you don't know how to sharpen, say you got a big nick in the middle of that blade, or one point of these V-tools, if you don't know how to do it, it's an easy way to ruin a tool by doing it the wrong way. So my encouragement is to learn how, and if you don't want to take the time to learn how or get the equipment you need, pay somebody whatever they charge, because it's going to be well worth it. Even if it's $5 a tool, that's cheaper than spending another $20, $30, $40, $50 on a tool, and in some cases having to wait until the operator or the salesperson got it back in stock. So we look like we're headed in the right direction, I think. We've got our lines cut out, although there's still some black stuff there. I'm not going to worry about the face right now, but what I am going to do is take a smaller fishtail gouge. I want a small one because it's going to take a lot of this stuff off. And for the next little bit, all I'm going to do is take off all these lines. See those lines and that rough wood? I want to just spend some time just doing that. So whatever you do, this is the zen part of the carving. Here's where you're trying to make it look pretty. So I'm going to start on the body underneath the arms, and all I'm going to do is just barely, I'm shaving right now is what I'm doing. Not really, I guess you're not really carving much because you're not shaping the wood, but I'm just going in here and taking off this chewed up wood that the duplicator does, the router head does. So let me see if I can get that a little bit closer. You can see a little bit of the difference. So you can see the rough kind of wood right here. It's just all chewed up. And all I'm doing is coming in here, making it a little more smoothly. I'm not removing every line in here because I still want facets. This is caricature carving. You want to leave some facets in here. So I don't want to make it so smooth that someone looks at it and says, well, that came from China, or somebody sanded it down, or it's resin, even worse. I've heard that a few times because I do a few shows and I have a few booths at it throughout the year. My next one's going to be the first weekend of December, and then I have one 2 weeks later. The one on the first weekend of September, of December, sorry, is one that I've done several times. We've been at that show several times, and we like that venue because it's specifically geared towards Scandinavian, old world carving, and, you know, Vikings and things like that. I've taken a few cowboys, and I don't think I've ever sold a cowboy there, but I have sold a number of Vikings and gnomes and Christmas ornaments. And so we're doing that one, and then we're doing a cowboy one in the second weekend of December. And we have a local rodeo at the Caldwell Night Rodeo out in Caldwell, Idaho, just west of Boise, about 30 miles. And they have a show called the 2C for Canyon County, 2C Cowboy Christmas. And I was able to get into that show, and I think we'll do okay, because I've been doing a lot of cowboys since I started carving, and I think it'll be a good show. If nothing else, it'll introduce people to carving, because what I'm finding out, we just started doing shows again this year on a serious basis. We're finding out, and my wife and I have given it real thought about, everybody loves our stuff. They come into our booth and they say ooh and ah over it, but not many of them buy things. And I think a lot of that goes to the fact that you go to an art show and you expect to see pottery, jewelry, sculpture, paintings, things like that. You don't expect to see carving because there's not many people out there selling carvings at art shows. And so when you, as a consumer, you're going to an art show, you don't expect to see carvings. Because you don't expect to see carvings, it's not in your wheelhouse in terms of, oh, that's what I want to buy. Because, you know, for the most part, I'm the only one at the shows that I do. I'm sure there's others at other shows. but I'm not getting a lot of people with a lot of interest in buying a lot. They love it. They think it's the neatest thing they've ever seen. We got voted as one of the best booths at our last show. But I think what's happening is we're needing to re-educate people. And if you look at the history of wood carving, it goes back a long time. I mean, people have been making things out of wood for thousands of years. And now what we're finding out is people don't realize there's carvers out there selling carvings, and so they don't think about it. And so we look at these next couple of years as we're being the ambassadors of the wood carving community in our area, because there aren't that many people doing it. In fact, I know of 2 or 3 people that do it, and mostly they're doing things like hair barrettes and spoons and ladles and stuff like that. I don't see very many, if any, carvers of figure carvers primarily, or even worse, I don't see any caricature carvers. And so when we do a show, people look at us and say, I didn't even know you existed. I didn't even know you were here. And because they didn't know we were there, when they go to an art show, they're not looking. I switched to a bigger fishtail gouge. This is my Stubai. I want to say it's 5/8 across, and it's a number 2, maybe even number 3. But I just got tiered to the back where I wanted longer, flatter cuts. Anyway, we figure people are not going out looking for that in particular. And so because they're not looking for that, they're not buying that. Because you go to an art show and you buy art, and some of it you display all year long, and some of it you don't. And so we've had people say, well, I've got this spot on the wall for a painting, and I was looking for a landscape or a portrait or whatever. And so they come to an art show, and that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for a carving because they don't really have spot on their shelf. And if they do, they're not looking for carving because they haven't seen carving. And so they're coming out, they're thinking it's cool. They're hoping they see you at the next show. They're hoping you'll be there the next year. But they're not ready to buy yet because they haven't given any thought. And art in Idaho is a little bit different. There's not a lot of people here that I know of that buy a lot of art and are willing to plunk down a lot of money on it. At least so far. At least that's the excuse I'm giving myself for not making a sale. It's not my fault. We do get a lot of good comments about our stuff, and a lot of people, reminisce about their grandfather, their grandmother, or their uncle, or somebody in the family they used to carve and they don't anymore. And so you ask them why not. Well, I don't know. And then you invite them to come take a class or come learn from our club, and I'm too busy, I got too many hobbies, which may be the case. But anyway, we are officially naming ourselves the ambassador of wood carving in the Treasure Valley. Treasure Valley encompasses from Mountain Home Air Force Base, about 40 miles east of here, all the way out to Caldwell. And Caldwell is about 30 miles west of here. And you could even argue that the Treasure Valley extends all the way over into Oregon, because it's this corner of Idaho that has Payette River, Boise River, and so we've got a pool of 500,000 people in this valley that we could draw upon to demonstrate wood carving, because I teach classes and I do demos and have a lot of fun with it. But anyway, we're doing a few shows and trying to get people educated into it, so we're the ambassadors, at least for right now. I don't know if you can see that, but I've gone around in just a few minutes. We've kind of smoothed it out a little bit, got some of that chunkier, blotchy stuff all off of it, and I'll continue to do that. I got a few more lines to draw in terms of where where the roughs are, where the gloves are, things like that. But we're well on our way. So it's probably boring you to death to listen to me sit here and talk and talk and talk. And so I'm going to come back. You know what I'm going to do between now and when we really get to carving the figure itself. You know I'm going to remove a lot of this rough stuff. I'm going to do that off camera because you really, I don't know. I don't know many people that are just tuned in to say, "Hey, let's watch Eric carve. Let's listen to him." Anyway, I'm not selling myself short, but I think you're gonna see the results of what I'm doing here, and I'll turn off the camera for a little bit. That'll keep this section of the video short, and then we'll put another piece on, and we'll see how that works. So I'll see you in the next video.